It's the Harris Football Podcast with your host, Christopher Harris.
Welcome! Hey everybody, welcome in. My name is Chris and this show is 16 fluid ounces of fun. Hello there, you yacht possums. How in the big wide world are ya? I am fully back in the habit of waking up and making a show, and it's really fun. I'm having a great time doing this every weekday now. I hope you are too, getting back in the routine of getting shouted at the moment you start this very stupid show. Just in the past few days, where have I heard from people? Switzerland, Germany, several people in Australia, somebody in New Zealand, Steve in Kenya wrote in. Amazing to hear from you, Steve. Truly, the tapeworms are everywhere. It is my honor to be talking to you, and it's my honor to announce the Cousin Josh bribery. I felt like I had to say this the moment we settled on it and made sure it was possible. Julie Red was the one who suggested it. Thank you, Julie. We're going to do 2 Pound Foolish drawings for prizes at the end of today's show. Today, one of the prizes is a Zoom session with me, and another prize is a signed copy of one of my books. But I hope today's winners don't feel sad, because they won't have won Friday's drawing. When Cousin Josh is on the show, I will announce that winner on Friday, because that winner is going to do a mock draft with me and Cousin Josh on our YouTube channel, recorded on our channel. We're going to record it this coming Monday evening. It won't be like recorded live, but yeah, it'll be on the channel. That's a big one, a big giveaway, a great idea. Mock drafting with me and Cousin Josh. If that sounds like something you would like to win, all you have to do is pre-order a copy of my forthcoming novel, Pound Foolish. Send me a screen capture, heyharris@harrisfootball.com. We're up to 400 entries. We got a bunch yesterday. I sent out a mailing. You might have gotten it. That's great, and I'm super proud and happy for however many people. It's all fun. It's all gravy. It's still a very small percentage of the audience. Very small. So as of right now, I mean, it's not an amazing chance, 1 in 400, but you'll take it. That's not horrible. And if you find yourself, thinking you'd like to be in a draft with Cousin Josh, who wouldn't? This is a good moment to do it. Enter now. You will be entered for Friday. It's a big one. Also, if you currently can't afford the luxury of a book because you're strapped, you're saving for something big, let me know that too, please. Reach out. We've had several volunteer possums who are springing for books. Matt and Josh and Nate and James and Isaac. They've got you. Email me, let me know. And anyone getting a free copy, you are entered in the bribery as well. Big prize coming up on Friday, mock drafting with me and Josh. Very fun stuff. And I should just say, I haven't said this, like if you're on board with the book already or you're considering it, I would love it if every person listening shared Pound Foolish with one other person. You know, they're someone in your life who's a reader. They like mysteries. They like sports fiction. That would be so cool. It'd be so great. Obviously, I'm doing this entirely by myself this time around. I've never done this before, and always had somebody, to various publishers. I need all the help you can give me. I really do appreciate that. All right, what's going on in this very silly game that we play? There are joint practices today. Cowboys-Rams, Colts-Patriots, Buccaneers-Jets, Titans-49ers. These are good days to be paying attention to beat reports. Not that everything that happens in joint practices or, every little observation isn't going to be actionable. Most of them are not going to be. But it's a hell of a lot more interesting to me than yet another 7-on-7 red zone drill where the beat reporter is guessing why a certain running back was on the field and everybody's then posting about it, and I just can't do that. You do at least start to get a sense of personnel groupings, and there's hitting, and there's tackling, there's legit skill in getting open or making someone miss. So much more than practice reports, and much more than the actual exhibition games that they come in advance of. I give some attention to these joint practices, and for these 4, for example, we'll probably talk about them on Thursday's show, I would say. Whatever lessons we thought we learned from the beat reporters. Because tomorrow, Wednesday, is the Yacht Club. I like to do things like this for the main show. So you can expect some reviews of what the beat people said about these joint practices on Thursday's podcast. Other news, the biggest report, to my way of thinking, from Monday involved Alec Pierce, about whom we spoke last Thursday on the show as part of the Film Room Heroes episode with JJ. I had Pierce on my list, not because I was necessarily excited about drafting him given his health, but because over the course of last season, I think Pierce was the guy who grew the most in my eyes from my previous opinion about him more than any other player. And I therefore understood why on tape the Colts paid him such a big contract to stick around in Indianapolis. But what do we always say? The most important stuff in training camp comes when the teams can't stop the negative stuff from leaking out. And on Monday, they did leak for Alec Pierce. He had the ankle surgery back in March. He was, according to the GM and the coach, very clearly supposed to be back doing something at practice by now, and he's not. And the Athletic reported, surely because the Athletic was told by someone on the team who's trying to mitigate the damage, that Pierce had a second injection of platelet-rich plasma in his injured ankle recently, which you probably don't do if your ankle is feeling hunky-dory. Long-term, does it change Pierce's career upswing? Not that I know of yet, but in the immediate term, how can this not lower him in the ranks? Because now we have, inside his range of outcomes, the worry that the ankle doesn't get right for weeks or months, and that he misses an entire camp. And for sure, sometimes when these guys miss entire camps, they're not quite in game shape, and they maybe get hurt in addition to the injury they already have. It's just overall not great sounding. For sure, there's still a chance for this to get undone if he's suddenly fine. And I might add, there's a chance for Pierce to do nothing in camp and then be absolutely fine and great for the entire season. And then it turned out he came at tremendous value in our drafts, but I just don't see how you can assume that. Pierce dropped to number 40 in my receiver ranks standard, 43 PPR. That puts him in the 8th round, so not somebody I can be drafting to be a true fantasy starter just now. And if the news gets worse, he's got downward mobility from there too. Not a great way to kick off the new contract. And I still won't be surprised. Maybe at some point we get the word that possibly Keenan Allen winds up signing there. That has been a rumor that's been out there for quite a bit. A couple other camp injuries that so far don't sound like major deals, but considering who they are, definitely at least worth continuing to check in on.
Harris benches more than Christian McCaffrey.
Not anymore. I do not. I do lighter weights with a quarter pump on each rep, thanks to my unbelievable trainer friend and yacht possum, Zach Y. But indeed, Christian McCaffrey was one of these guys. CMC sat out Monday's practice with muscle tightness. With anybody else, that's the literal definition of a nothing burger, and my very, very strong guess is that it's a nothing burger for McCaffrey too, but we will just note that it happened and make sure it doesn't keep happening with the oft-injured McCaffrey. And J.K. Dobbins, if anyone gets injured more oft than McCaffrey, it is Dobbins, and he limped off a practice field on Monday. Sean Payton told reporters it was a soft tissue injury and Dobbins will be fine. Insert the meme that says, "Sure, Jan," here. In fact, a few days ago, Dobbins gave a press conference where he gave a pinky promise to reporters that he would play the full 17 games this year. Why, it's almost as if pinky promises don't mean anything anymore. Once again, not changing ranks based on one thing, not freaking out, but certainly going to keep an eye on Dobbins over the next few days as well. Would you like to hear Dobbins's almanac profile, pre-pinky promise, PPP, pre-pinky promise? Sure you would. That almanac profile goes a little something like this. If you're basing everything off cumulative stats from 2025, I'm putting the wrong Broncos running back first. That other guy will be along on the list very shortly. If you're basing everything off the likelihood Dobbins stays healthy for a full season, yeah, ditto. But if you're trying to weigh those factors against how the Denver running backs played and how Sean Payton seemed to want to deploy them when everybody was upright, I think J.K. Dobbins deserves to be first among near equals. When he tore a ligament in his left foot in Week 10, Dobbins was Fantasy's RB15, and rookie R.J. Harvey was RB24, and watching it game by game, it honestly didn't feel that close. As I say, we'll discuss Harvey in a second, but by comparison, Dobbins looked for real. He had 100 more carries than his counterpart. First play of the second half, Week 3 against the Chargers, shotgun RPO, and Dobbins flashes legit speed on a 41-yard gain. Monday night, the next week, against the Bengals, Dobbins was the best player on the Denver offense, dominating with slashes and cuts between the tackles, and Harvey mostly played Basura time. In Week 5's comeback upset in Philly, Dobbins found as much daylight as a good defense would allow and scored a shorty. At that point in the season, he led all NFL running backs in carries that gained 10-plus yards. Harvey was getting a distracting amount of red zone receiving work, and both guys had a role, but Dobbins' role was more repeatable and valuable. Well, but if it's a day that ends in Y, Dobbins can get hurt on it. His Liz Frank injury happened in the third quarter of Week 10 against the Raiders on a hip drop tackle uncalled by Tyree Wilson. In retrospect, we can see Dobbins fumble once he was down and grab his foot, but he actually stayed in the game and converted the final first down to lock up a 10-7 win. Unfortunately, unshockingly, he needed surgery and was out for the rest of the year. In his stead, Harvey finished RB17 the rest of the way on the shoulders of some touchdowns, but still looked pretty bad as a runner. This winter, the Broncos drafted Jonah Coleman in the 4th round, but they also decided to re-up Dobbins. If we could magically grant all these Denver running backs health for the entire 26 season, Dobbins would deserve to be a lot higher than this in the ranks. But, shall we go through the list? In addition to the ruptured foot ligament, Dobbins has torn a knee meniscus, torn an ACL, sprained a knee, torn an Achilles, and sprained the other knee. Of a possible 101 professional regular season games, Dobbins has played in 54. He's held together by orange, navy, and white duct tape. So that's how that one goes. Obviously, I was referring to Harvey, the 6-foot invisible rabbit. You've got Jonah Coleman, the rookie, also there. If everyone's healthy, I like Dobbins best. It is still probably a mix of all three, because that's the NFL now. So far, I think he looks like the best player, though I will also admit I don't know Jonah Coleman from a hole in the ground, and RJ Harvey's a second-year player, and they can get better. So let's see how this injury goes, and see what they keep saying about these guys and their rotation the rest of the year. You can also, of course, find the Almanac, as you can each and every year, at harrisfootball.com.
Today's kickoff.
Okay, on today's show, it's the swing list. We do it every year, a fun topic. Players who have the potential to swing leagues because of their upsides and their downsides. Not necessarily acid reflux guys. I have some players on my list who I absolutely feel pretty good about taking, but I also do understand that they're going to require an investment and that their range of outcomes is wider than maybe I would love given what I'll have to pay. They have fantasy football main character energy, you might say. Emailer Daniel Wade says, quote, "Swing players, my favorite August tradition. I love to hear you berate the hapless guest for bringing up a 6th-round tight end. They are so damn easily replaced. That's not swing." Then you explain to him why your 12th-round quarterback is the icon of irreplaceability. End quote. Indeed, good point. And to help me with the swing players, our old friend Brandon Funston from The Athletic will join the show. I think it'll be really fun. I thank you again so much for listening today. By now you've heard me talk about Cowboy Colostrum, which I myself am drinking each morning, already drank it today, as part of my routine. And now that we're a little deeper into my cowboy experiment, I can report my stomach has been feeling better. And the big change I've made is cowboy. What is colostrum? It's the first milk produced by the cow. Cowboy collects it after the baby calves have had their fill, makes it into powder. The latest flavor is cookies and cream. Tastes really good. No artificial flavors, no fillers, no sugar. Colostrum supports gut health. I am way less bloated, and I'm not alone. 83% of participants in a clinical study said their gut health was better. 79% said less bloating and inflammation. 72% said improved digestion. Plus, a side benefit is it's really good for your skin and hair. Try the new cookies and cream flavor for yourself. For a limited time, our listeners get up to 25% off their entire order. Just head to cowboycolostrum.com/Harris and use the code Harris at checkout. That's 25% off when you use the code Harris at cowboycolostrum.com/Harris.
Today's guest.
Funston, looking down on you, looking down on me like we asked for. Brandon Funston, talking Christmas treats, jingle jangle is sweet. We would all like to eat.
Oh, get to hear that song. Means I get to talk to Brandon Funston from The Athletic. He makes the whole thing work over there. Well, makes part of it work certainly over there. If you're interested in fantasy football, of course we endorse The Athletic. We love Jake Seeley. Now Andy Behrens does some work over there occasionally. And the puppet master is Brandon Funston. Hello, Brandon.
Hello. It's like deja vu all over again. Yes.
You're back.
I'm back. And yes, Andy Behrens, more Behrens everywhere. So, so check him out on your pod, but also on The Athletic.
For sure. And he'll be on tomorrow with me on the Yacht Club, and we're going to do players Andy loves. That'll be fun. Andy can spread some love on the show tomorrow. But for today, we're bringing you aboard. You're one of the rare guests who's been on every season of Harris Football.
Is that true?
Awesome.
How big of a list is that?
I haven't done it, but I mean, I think it's 4 or 5.
Okay. It's a one-hand kind of a deal. Wow.
Oh, it's a one-hand kind of a deal. Yeah. And I mean, there's a whole story behind why that is, but there was attrition from the peak or from other times. And then just, I was slow to get started because when you're behind the concrete wall at ESPN, you don't really know anybody else because you're not allowed to do any other shows.
Right.
Yeah. So like, I didn't know who to get. It was, Twitter was much more important then in the world. And it was like, whoever had a big Twitter following, I gave a shot, back then.
So you weren't, you don't feel like you had a wide net that you had created at ESPN so that when you went to your podcast, the wider net came after ESPN is what you're saying.
Oh, much, much wider. Yeah. I met everybody. I'd never talked to Pat Doherty before. I'd never talked to Denny Carter. I'd never talked to J.G. Zacharyson. I could have had I been someone who goes to these events, but right. I just tend not to go to those events. Nothing against them. A lot of the listeners go to them. I think it's awesome. And, the industry ones I've been, and they're okay. It's like, I just don't really want to.
Yeah, the problem with those is you go to 1 or 2 and then you're just you've been there and done that. Yeah,
you're either getting pitched by everybody or you're feeling like you're pitching everybody, and it's not for me. I'd rather just be by myself writing a book or something. So no, the answer was like to start with, because you hired me at Yahoo. You're the first one who ever gave me a job doing this, and so I was like, okay, well, I know him.
And then you left me after a year.
I did. Less than a year. It was like 7 months or something.
It was so fast. I was like, dang, we had a good thing going on here.
I know. You let me go. That was very nice. I had a contract and you let me go. But of course, I got you Andy as a result, in recompense. So I feel like I paid my debt.
Not a bad consolation prize at all.
Yeah. I mean, it is clearly a consolation prize, but not a bad one. But yeah, anyway, so you have been coming on since 2015, and you've done this list 2 years ago. And yet still, because you're you, when we logged in, you said, I probably did this wrong. You're going to yell at me.
I think I got the gist of it. I'm just taking it as sort of lightning rods is my way of kind of looking at it. So
swing players, lightning rods. In the email, a new way of saying it was like the main characters of fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, we expect these guys are going to be the main characters. And I personally tried not to pick a bunch of injury guys because, like, the conversation becomes, whoa, if he's not hurt, he's going to be great. And if he's hurt, he's going to suck. Like, it's kind of boring. If you picked a couple it doesn't matter. It's fine. In the end, these lists, as I always say, have been saying for 12 seasons, 12 preseasons, they're an excuse to talk about players. That's really it. It's great to have another perspective on, and your perspective is fantastic. Before we get started, though, I should mention, for anybody in the Seattle-Tacoma area, am I allowed to say this? It's too late. I'm already saying it. Am I committing you? We think you're coming to the reading. That's Sunday, August 23rd. Unless circumstances intervene. You do have children and stuff, but they're pretty grown now, so they can handle it, whatever it is. Hopefully you'll be able to drive down from your stately manse in Seattle, and make it to Tacoma and cheer me on for the reading there. So if people are on the fence about coming to that particular reading, get off the fence, because you'll get to meet Brandon too.
That's right. If you come within an hour radius of where I live, I'm beholden to reach out and go meet you in person. So you did it, and I will follow through on that.
We were trying to remember the last time we saw each other in person, and I mean, I don't like you reminded me that you used to come down to LA more for different gigs and stuff, and so I guess probably the last time was like 2019 or something. The last time we actually saw each other in person, which is wild.
Yeah, I think we had ramen really close to where you live. Something like that.
Yeah. I probably know where we went because I still live in the same place. So I still live aboard the same yacht. All right, well, let's do this. Enough of my grab-ass problems. Things are great, and we're going to do swing players. It's a pointless countdown, but it's very important to do them in the right order. Who is your number 5 swing player for 2026?
Let's go with Bhayshul Tuten. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to pay an expected price on him. This is a 4th rounder who had uneven film as a rookie, who has someone who's vying for backfield workload share, that has a history with Liam Cohen, who, could be the goal line gremlin, could be the guy that has early downs. You got LaQuint Allen there, who could take 3rd downs away. I mean, we're putting a lot of stock in a 4th round second-year player who has done really nothing to guarantee that he's the man. Although you go into most of the drafts I see, there's 1 or 2 just Tuten stands that are going to make you pay an uncomfortable price to get him. And I don't know that I'm there yet. I kind of think that this is going to be more of a backfield by committee. I mean, if you're paying inside the top 25 running backs for him, I think it's too rich for my blood. But I just think he's a player that a lot of people are buying into, with what I see as there is the upside there, and I get it, but I can see a clear downside as well.
Yeah, I immediately heard the name and I thought, oh yeah, main character energy. Definitely someone that people will be really loud about over the next few weeks and be like, what? You're missing the boat. He's RB19, dude. What are you talking about? Here, look at his underwear Olympics stuff. Yeah. And then everybody else is going to be like, I'm pretty sure he couldn't get the ball at all. I think Travis Etienne leaving Jacksonville, of course, that scans to some people who want to believe the stands, as you say, as trust in Tuten. Bringing in Chris Rodriguez is potentially a problem, although Rodriguez apparently not done too much in training camp yet. But like you would say, who in theory is a bigger threat to Tuten? Is it Chris Rodriguez or Travis Etienne? Obviously. And so I see it. I don't either have him in my top 25 running backs, but I have him 28. I'm not outraged if that winds up being the cost. I would suspect because of how noisy, we call him your darn Tuten. I suspect because of how noisy his boosters are, that's going to mean ADP we see climb, especially since he's had some good notes in training camp and Rodriguez has been mostly inactive.
Where are you at on the player? I mean, like generally
RB28.
Okay, yeah. RB28, but do you
as a
like
player,
him as a runner, as a potential lead back, or are you more? This is a complimentary back in my mind.
I think he's more of a complimentary back. I think if he's thrust into a main role, he could be valuable for fantasy, and that's what people are kind of making a bet on a depth chart and laundry. Andy and I did a film futures or whatever it's called on him. We watched a ton of his tape this winter, and Barron's called him faster Rico Dowdle, and I called him faster Damian Pierce.
Ooh,
so
Damian Pierce, ouch.
Well, faster.
That's true. I mean, that would have helped Damian Pierce out a lot if he was faster. So
you know, like the issue comes down. He's definitely fast. The issue comes down to vision, and he hardly made any big plays. It's hard for a guy that fast to not make any big plays, and I think it's because that he didn't see it very well. But that can change. You know, second-year player. I understand. Yeah. Good conversation. Either way, good conversation. My number 5 is a much older player. And we probably don't have to have like a super long conversation about him, except to say it may not be the first time that I talk about him in August on the show, because Matthew Stafford, to me, has main character energy for this year. Oh, I don't know. He was the MVP last year, and yet every time I bring him up, people go, Chris, you're not going to believe where Matthew Stafford's going. You're going to be so mad when you see where Matthew Stafford's going. And, you know, I'm not really looking at ADP now. I kind of don't believe in it. But, people are saying he's not even a fantasy starter. I have him in the top 5 among quarterbacks. I don't get it. I don't understand. I guess what I'm saying is there's a chance he's a flag player because he'll come so cheap that I'll just be like, awesome. This is the Aaron Rodgers from back-to-back years where people just didn't believe in him and he kept winning MVPs.
Yeah, you know, Andy actually just wrote his latest piece for The Athletic just went up was about this. It's like, this is the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl, the team that's expected to win the most, that has probably the highest offensive, projections, who has the number 1 or number 2 fantasy wide receiver, and also Devontae Adams is, in the top 20, and you put all the surrounding elements together, and yet there's Matt Stafford sitting at QB 15. It doesn't make any sense, and so
that's the first time I've heard that.
Well, that's about where he's going. But you're right, like he's not going as a starting quarterback in a lot of leagues, and he was just putting up insane numbers last year, and there's regression potential that still puts him easily in the top 12. So, he's just an amazing quarterback. And then really the only thing that, in my mind, that can hold him back is just the fear of the injury, which is real. But, they managed it last year, and if he plays a full season again, I don't see how he misses the top 10 at quarterback.
Who's more likely to get injured, Matthew Stafford or Jaden Daniels?
Yeah,
right.
There's no question. At least Matthew Stafford stays in the pocket, and and it's like I'm gonna get rid of the ball quickly here, and he keeps himself out of harm's way as much as possible. You can't say the same thing for Jaden Daniels.
Right, utterly foolish. Of course, 46 passing touchdowns. It's not gonna happen. I know it's not gonna happen, but I think 33 is, and guess what? That's easily a fantasy starter. I am. I do not. I intentionally do not look at ADP, and so this is actually you told. I mean, I don't mind you telling me, but I'm really glad I brought him up because I did not know that wide quarterback 15. I assumed it would be like 12 or something.
Yeah, it's just outside. I mean, depending on where you're looking, but you're seeing him like 13 to 16 pretty regularly.
Yeah, I'm doing. I'll do ADP next week. So I think like Tuesday of next week, finally I'll dig in and be like,
you literally will just look at ADP for the first time. Are you telling me that? That's what you do?
I have not looked at ADP.
That's interesting. I noticed that you haven't, but just by going through your almanac, it's like, oh wow, you're so far off ADP on that. But I love it. That's what I love about your almanac. It's just completely unbiased, it's just there's no preconceived, notions going into it. You just write it as you see it, and it's good to have that fresh take instead of the, kind of everybody falling in line perspective that you see year in and year out.
We are sponsored today by BetterHelp. You've heard me talk about them as a sponsor for a while, and I always say not everybody hearing the sound of my voice this very moment needs therapy, but some might, and everybody could use someone to talk to at some point in our lives when we're going through big changes, or just sometimes it just helps to talk with someone outside your life who can provide a fresh viewpoint. And it's just worth noting how many people really like BetterHelp. You can see for yourself if you go to betterhelp.com/reviews. They're updated every day with hundreds of new people's comments. BetterHelp has a 4.9 rating out of 5 based on over 1.7 million client session reviews, and more than 6 million people have used BetterHelp globally. I personally do therapy online. For me, it really helps. And if you think you could use someone to talk to, you can get started with a brief survey and get matched right away, right now. And you can switch therapists at any time at no additional cost. See the reviews, see what stands out, and see if BetterHelp is right for you. Visit betterhelp.com/Harris. That's betterhelp.com/Harris. betterhelp.com/Harris. We are back with Brandon. We are talking about swing players for 2026. Brandon was giving me compliments, which, we all hopefully took a moment, just bent over and caught our breath. Who's number 4 on your list of swing players, Brandon?
Let's go with Luther Burden. So I figured one of us would have to bring him up. He's just, again, this is water cooler hype, buzz. I'm not sure that Luther Burden is the right Chicago receiver to get all the accolades and all the, the preseason steam. But, so that's what he is. He's, is he the wide receiver 21, which is kind of where he settled in on the AEP, or is that, again, like a Bhayshul Tuten, someone, you're paying the expectant price for somebody who hasn't done anything for a full season.
Wish casting, basically.
It's wish casting, absolutely.
Yeah.
I kind of see. I like Luther Burden. I can easily see him being wide receiver 21. I could also see him being wide receiver 33. I could see Roma Dunze being the guy here. But in this offense, and if Caleb Williams even takes another step forward, I mean, he could be much better than wide receiver 21. It's not. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. He could be a top 15 fantasy wide receiver. So I think there's some range of outcomes on him. I'm generally not, in the early drafts that I've done, I'm not the biggest Luther Burden fan in the room, and so I don't know that I'll get a lot of him. I think I'll get a lot more Roma Dunze as the summer winds down. But I don't have anything against Luther Burden. I think he's got the potential to be a very good player.
Yeah, he's interesting. He, again, definitely hasn't done it. Couldn't win the third receiver job out of his rookie training camp, no question. The thing that we talked about on Monday's show off the top was the injury, and I have to imagine that puts a little bit of a roadblock on Luther Burden. Like, maybe not. I mean, because again, the people who love the young players or the second year players, they don't stop for roadblocks. But he's not going to be in training camp. He's got a groin injury that's in a race to make week 1. How is that? Go ahead.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, people will just see the reporting that, he's expected to be ready for week 1, but that's a soft tissue injury in preseason. And you don't wish that on any of your players. Like, if it's a hamstring or groin, that's not like, okay, we just did the 3-4 weeks and it should be all good now. Like, those are the notoriously recurring kind of injuries that you would not want your fantasy players starting out the season dealing with.
100%. Again, I feel like the right way to think about this stuff is always is like expected value, percent chance of each outcome. And Luther Burden just acquired some 11.7% chance of a groin injury that lasts the entire season. How does that not lower his expected value? Like, that's how you have to think about this stuff.
Absolutely.
So yeah, he almost, I guess, for it's an interesting guy to have brought up because it's an interesting confluence of a hype guy and an injury guy.
Yeah.
He's real fast. He's fun as hell. He's really quick twitch. He's really fun with the ball in his hand. When he gets the ball in his hand, like, he doesn't have very good hands from what I could see. and like, he's pretty small. But I don't know if you've heard this, Brandon. He's the Amon-Ra St. Brown in Ben Johnson's offense.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I heard that once. Yeah. It stuck with
I heard
me
that
though.
once. Yeah. All right. My number 4 is a player near and dear to your heart. I do think he's got main character energy, and he's going to go in the first round. I think he should go in the first round. I'm not criticizing him. But Jaxon Smith-Njigba has never done it before until last year. And so, he's going to be surrounded in your wide receiver options very, very high by players who have multiple years of having done it before. And so there's a swing, I guess, like, he can't swing up from where he's being drafted because rightly he's being drafted probably most places middle of the first round. But he's a swing player for me in that, yeah, I've definitely, like, I did a little thing for the YouTube channel where I realized that Amon-Ra St. Brown has finished as the number 3 receiver in fantasy 3 years in a row. And the 2 guys ahead of him each of the 3 years have been different each of the 3 years. So, like, CeeDee Lamb had one great year, and otherwise he's not been all that amazing. And so what if JSN, just had one amazing, everything came together year, and as soon as, I don't expect this to happen, but I think sort of one of the main stories, the storylines of this season is JSN one of those guys? Is he, I guess you'd say at this point, Jamar Chase is the only one. I mean, Puka, but Puka gets hurt. And Jefferson, you would have said that last year, but not so much. Like, we're really running out of guys. Like, one big story for me is if you take that chance on a quote-unquote one-year wonder who, I mean, buddy, there was no bigger booster than me before last year. Like, I was so in and reaped the rewards. So I'm not trying to say I doubt it, but it is a big question. I've been wrong before. I've watched CJ Stroud's rookie year and thought he was really great. I've watched, I've definitely been, I can get seduced. I don't think I have been, but a big old story will be, all right, every time the Seahawks walk into a town, that defense's first mission will be stop JSN. And if they can, then he's going to do a merely good season.
Yeah, I think this JSN is a Chris Harris player though, because when you turn on the game film, like, there's no way you're poking too many holes in his game. Like, he's just elite. Yeah. So it comes down to what you just said is, can other defenses take him away effectively, and Seattle doesn't have a way to make them pay in a big way. So the jury's out on that, but I get what you're saying. It's basically like he just had a huge career year, and you're kind of having to pay for another one. And
I think he's going to do it again, but it is for me, it is a big swing moment to be in a draft, to be like, I mean, personally, I would like one of those 3, 4, however many you like running backs, and then Jamar Chase, and then I go, oh boy, I'm picking 7 here. Am I really taking a guy who's done this once?
Well,
and the answer is probably, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, you're sitting there and you're chasing for, like, how much better was JSN than Amon-Ra St. Brown last year? He was better, but it wasn't like out of this world better. But you just know Amon-Ra St. Brown puts those numbers up year in and year out at this point. So you take those because they're safe and you're going to get them, or are you taking JSN chasing what probably isn't a whole lot left of a ceiling, for him to advance? So and there's
no, but if he does it again, right?
Yeah.
If like Chase, he just keeps doing it every year, you just go, this is so safe, this is so awesome, this is like super elite production, plus I don't have any downside. Like, Amon-Ra's problem, quote unquote problem, he's freaking amazing, is he better score touchdowns. You know, I think he did.
Yeah.
Was it 9 games last year with fewer than 80 yards, 60 yards? I think it was the number. Like, but that's built in. He does score touchdowns. He's awesome at it. They want him to score. You know, so I'm not like criticizing him. But I think JSN had 18 catches on balls of 20 plus air yards. Amon-Ra had 4. Like, I'm sorry, that guy with 18 has more upside. You know, like that's why I'm picking him. But 100% acknowledge that if I come out of a draft and JSN was my first pick, I'm going to feel okay, but I'm going to have a little pit in my stomach going like, oh, I really hope it wasn't a 1-year deal.
Yeah. Well, I saw him go ninth in a single QB in Jake's flex drafts last weekend. He went 9th. I was like, wow, I haven't seen that. I mean, I can understand you. Yeah, it's late. It's like I feel like he's top 6 no matter what, but some people disagree.
All right, how about your number 3?
So I went with 2 guys that so far that getting a lot of buzz, and I'm a little bit pushing back on it. I think this guy is not getting any buzz, and I love him, and I just love the fit, and that's DJ Moore going to Buffalo. I think he's 29 years old now. This is very reminiscent of when Stephon Diggs went kind of sort of later in his career to Buffalo, had 4 straight amazing seasons with Josh Allen. I like the similarities in style between the two. I think the fit is like Josh Allen, his ability to buy time, DJ Moore, his ability to find open pockets with that time. I think it's just going to be great. I think there's, I looked at Diggs. He had, I think 4 straight years of 100 catches, averaged about 1,300 receiving yards, and was like 8 to 10 touchdowns every year. I think it's very conceivable DJ Moore can put up those kind of numbers. And right now you're not really being asked to pay for anything close to that in drafts. So they've had nothing at wide receiver the last couple of years. And this is just like, I've always liked DJ Moore, and I just love that he landed here.
So I don't know if you heard it, even though we're recording and it's not live, but the entire Possum Nation just groaned at you because everybody knows how much I love DJ Moore, the little badass, we call him. Yeah. That's his nickname because he's a little badass.
He is.
And I don't know if you saw his illustration in the almanac. Did you see the little picture of him?
No,
he's in a.
I read his blurb, but
yeah. If you look at the wide receiver, I think it's in the wide receiver header, but it's in one of the headers, the chapter headers. He's in a Bills uniform and he's going through like a beer pong table. Because let's face it, that's what he would do. Yeah, I think he has that swing notion to him too, though. Let's face it, even though you're excited, I mean, I like hearing your takes on these guys, but the most important thing here is we're picking guys who have that, say it a million ways, like wide range of outcomes, main character energy. They are going to represent a significant chunk of the story of fantasy this season. Of course, DJ Moore is one of them, because there's going to be the reason his ADP is going to be lower than you and I would take him is because people lived through last year and it was horrible.
Yeah.
And he kind of wasn't hurt, and he was part of a good offense, and other players made plays, and somehow he seemed to earn the coach's wrath. I mean, he really seemed to kind of they traded him like they didn't want him anymore. Like, it's very clearly he kind of wore his welcome there. I'm with you stylistically. I wrote about that in the almanac. Like, you dream up the player who will keep alive on a route when Josh Allen's waiting 10 seconds, and it's DJ Moore.
Yeah.
It just seems like it should be so perfect. It's a great, like, I know I'm going to wind up being higher because I always am. The question is always how much, but he definitely is a swing player for this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. My number 3. So Andy, last week on the Yacht Club, we did a topic that was players who could lose their job by week 1. And his number 1 player on the list is my swing player here. It's Cam Skattebo. Obviously, Andy has strong feelings about Cam Skattebo, that he's, maybe not even going to be the unquestioned starter by the time we get to week 1. I don't necessarily feel that way. I don't know that I feel like the way people are talking about him, like I'm so low on him or anything. I mean, there is the worry about just stylistic problems and injuries. I don't want to overweigh that because running back is a dangerous job, and they all can get hurt. They're all, and the way he got hurt actually was his leg, not his head. So he leads with his head. That's the big worry, but anybody could have gotten a leg injury. It was gross. Playing in New York and being the new stud running back for the Giants already gives you main character energy. And this kid obviously acts like a buffoon and tries to be a cow catcher with his head. We call him the particle accelerator. If we wake up and he's the RB7, of course I understand how it happened. It's just so the path is very obvious. He Mike Allstadt's his way to an incredible year, but Mike Allstadt only had the 1 year. So I also of course can see the downside too.
Yeah. Peyton Hillis. There you go. But listen, if there was a team, if we had to pick a team that kind of fit this category, I think it's the New York Giants, because you got Skattebo, you got Jackson Dart, you got Malik Neighbors. These are all people that have wild swings and potential outcomes. And I thought about going Giants. I just didn't know which one to pick, and I felt like, we could just throw them all in there and talk about them all. But I get the Skattebo thing. I think the same thing, like I said, could be said about Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors. So the Giants are, I think, a fascinating team from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, I'm going to be out on Dart. Everybody knows that. I did not like that tape at all. He is much more of a fade for me. But the other two guys, I get it. The other two guys they have that swing possibility. Win your league, lose your league kind of thing. How about your number two?
My number two is Omarion Hampton.
My number two is Omarion Hampton.
Nice. Had to be. I mean, I think he might be the poster guy for this. And he is getting a lot of love from some people. But how dynamic is he? Other than the passing game sort of saved him last year from what we saw in fantasy, and also the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys defenses, because those were his two big games, and most running backs had good games against those guys. And it was weird. He had a ton of utility in the passing game. I don't know if that sticks. So we'll see if the offensive line's better and Justin Herbert's not looking, to lean on the running back in the passing game as much. Got more time to throw. There's a lot of great numbers when Joe Alt's in there for Justin Herbert. So I don't know if we'll see as much utility in the passing game from Hampton, but this is, people love the Mike McDaniel signing. They love the offensive line being better. They think this is going to be a team on the rise, and Omarion Hampton's just automatically this, the lead bell cow guy there. But by the way, Keaton Mitchell's there. Kamani Vidal, and I think I just saw McDaniel saying, sorry, fantasy managers, but this is going to often be a three-headed monster, basically. I mean, to sort of, not exact quote there, but that's basically what he alluded to. So, this may not be a true featured guy like everybody who is drafting him inside the running back top 10 assumes he will be.
A quick break to mention Fantasy Cares. If your league is maybe looking to add a charitable element, fantasycares.org is the place to go. The website makes it really easy, and you don't have to donate the whole kitty in your fantasy league to charity, just slicing off one entry fee. Even if it's $10, every little bit really does help. Fantasy Cares is, of course, the brainchild of our friend Scott Fish. They support dozens of great charities. You can also play in some fish market auctions that are drafting here in the next couple of weeks. You can do the Fantasy Cares Pick'em, the Fantasy Cares Survivor Pool. There's a one and done contest, all for minimal contributions to Fantasy Cares. And then you have a fun game you can play knowing that the money went to somewhere good. You can find all this stuff at fantasycares.org. Any proceeds you pay will go to charity, including the big one around holiday time. That's Toys for Tots. Check out everything Scott has going on at fantasycares.org. Okay, we're back with Brandon, and we have mutually selected Omarion Hampton because we've known each other for 20 plus years. Somehow osmosis our way to Omarion Hampton as our number 2 swing player for 2026. Yeah, you just mentioned his ADP being in the top 10 running backs, and I did not know that. And again, I don't care about spoilers. We're a week away from like really diving in, but yeah. At that price, it's a fade from me. At that price, yeah. I'm out. And so like maybe my answer is a little different than him being a swing player. But then again, I get it. I understand what can go right. Big fast guy. Not sure he has any wiggle at all, but like big fast guy, understand how it goes the way it goes.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody proclaiming Omarion Hampton as a top 10 running back has seen him play, because I don't think he's bad or anything, and plus you hinted at it before we went to break, like that became a completely different offense after a month. They lose both tackles and it just becomes an unworkable situation. So I don't even know how useful the tape is, but still you have to watch it. And it's not like, Can I say Tyler Algier? Can I say like
Algier's not as fast though, right? But similar in style, but a faster Algier.
Yeah, I mean, who are the 220-pound guys with really stiff hips who run well, but not like? I mean, he's not Saquon. Hampton right. Isn't, like name like those guys are like Raheem Mostert.
Yeah.
Like they're Tevin Coleman, they're not exciting players to me because I mean, I'll say even though he's not 220 pounds, I think Travion Henderson has some of that, even though I think Travion can change directions in a way that I don't think Hampton can. This is a pretty good player and probably a starter in an NFL backfield. And like I say ad infinitum, every NFL backfield is a platoon. It just is. There's no. I guess Derrick Henry's not in one. Saquon Barkley's not in one. Christian McCaffrey's not in one. I mean, Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. Like there's 4 or 5 guys, but like Hampton's not one of them.
Right.
No one's ranking him in the top 5. So like. I'm not going to punish him because Mike McDaniel says that his scat backs are going to play some, because of course they are. They all play some. But does Hampton rise to the level of, just trust me, when the rubber meets the road, he's the guy? Not really.
Yeah.
At least not yet. And I guess he makes sense as a swing player, though, because he didn't get to put down a ton of tape with his tackles there. And it's probably a more exciting offense scheme-wise, and he was a first-year player who got hurt, and so he could show new things that I didn't get to see yet, and suddenly he's RB3, and I go, oops, I eat it, But that's an argument for the upside, but I just think if he's a top 10, nobody's really making the argument for the downside.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned it in your write-up. Mike McDaniel does have his love for speed, and that was when Raheem Mostert was out there with Etienne a couple of years ago. I mean, who knows? We might see a lot more Keaton Mitchell than anybody who drafts Hampton would want to see.
I mean, I can't remember. I'm not looking at the almanac, but you can quote me or not quote me. I believe I said, like, no matter how fast you think Omarion Hampton is, you have to trust me that Keaton Mitchell is significantly faster. Yep. And he's also very small and injury prone, so I can't tell you he's a reason to stay away from Omarion Hampton, but I'm just saying, like, there is someone else who does that job, of running real fast. Well, that's funny that we both wound up with Hampton at number 2. Who do you have as your number 1 swing player for 2026?
Yeah, I guess I could put these in order of how they're sort of going off the draft board. So I just went with the highest guy that I have my questions about. Was a guy that was like Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was never questions about him until last year, and that was Justin Jefferson. And so he was, I don't know, he was like in the mid-20s at wide receiver last year in terms of production. J.J. McCarthy was terrible, and everybody's like, well, it's going to be Kyler Murray this year, so we're just going to throw him back at like wide receiver 7.
It's
and
fixed.
I'm like, what? Let's just pump the brakes on that. Like, we're going to move him all the way back to wide receiver 7. Like, the Kyler Murray I know is not the kind of quarterback that would jive well with Justin Jefferson playing on schedule. 3-step drops and hitting Justin Jefferson on a crossing route or like on timing plays. Like, Kyler Murray has a terrible track record of elevating wide receiver performance. The best he ever did was DeAndre Hopkins when Hopkins went there in 2022. But like, there's just not a lot of great fantasy wide receiver performances out of Arizona in the Kyler Murray era. And now we're talking late career Kyler Murray, who Arizona basically let walk out of the building. And so
they're paying him $40-50 million to not play for them.
Exactly. So like, I do agree that Justin Jefferson will be better. I still think he's great, in a vacuum, but it takes two to play the wide receiver game in fantasy, and it takes a decent quarterback. And I don't know that he has one. And I'm more like, I'm kind of like I'm a few ADP spots below. He's just outside my wide receiver top 10, so I'm down a little bit on him compared to the industry.
I have him 7, and I have him like 6, probably PPR, 7 standard, 6 PPR. So I guess you're telling me that I'm right around where people are. I'm not going to take him in the first round.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a second round pick to me. If he goes in the first, there's too much Kyler fear there, but he's a wonderful candidate for this list because, once again, I think the story of fantasy this year has to include what happens to Justin Jefferson bouncing back from just the worst thing we've ever seen. Yeah. 2 touchdowns.
We're all rooting for it. I mean,
sure.
Yeah. I don't like really great historic players to have speed bumps in the middle of their careers because of elements around them. I always like to see the best players be able to maximize their potential, and I want to see how they net out in their career numbers and all that. It's fun that way, but I hate to throw the asterisks in because you have such a lousy quarterback that it just blew up a year, and I don't want to see it happen again.
He had 15 end zone targets last year. I think that was third among receivers. Got 2. And I'll say later in the year he dropped a few like in the same game, and that is not the quarterback's fault. But yes, I mean, obviously at some point he had just lost the will to live. Yeah. It's a good candidate. Probably not too much more needs to be said. I'm with you that stylistically it's maybe not the greatest fit. I probably could have said that in starker terms in the almanac. The only thing I'll say is he at least will be getting NFL quality quarterbacking.
Right.
It will be better than J.J. McCarthy, who is probably not a starter, at least until his Daniel Jones second act. That he is not
right
a starter. So yeah, I mean, it's somewhat of a bet on talent. If you were asking me to line up the 2 most talented receivers, it's Chase and Jefferson, but I'm not ranking Jefferson that high again. The problem is just the story of the receivers around him is just as dirty. Like it's wide receiver 1 in the infinite sadness. Like there's just not a lot to distinguish anybody beyond like the 4th guy on the list.
Yeah. It's always amazing when you throw out the Chase and Jefferson thing and just thinking that those guys were on the same team in college.
Same team. With amazing. Joe Burrow.
With Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Did they win? I was wondering if
I think it worked out well for them. Yeah.
Worked okay.
Burrow had like 60 touchdown passes or something like that.
Yeah. So my number 1 is 2 guys, but I'll make it be 1 guy because I don't want to cheat too badly. I'll make it be Bernie Pickens. Actually, that's not true. If Bernie Pickens shows up, I know exactly what's going to happen. My actual pick is George Pickens. Bernie is his cousin who doesn't have a head wound, and so he acts like a normal person and plays great. But then every so often, George decides to show up and, throws a wrench into things. But this seemed to me since I know both of these receivers are going to be drafted in the top, probably as wide receiver 1s, I'm going to guess maybe they're the only teammates that are going to be drafted as wide receiver 1s. I'm also going to guess, you can tell me if I'm wrong, Lamb is probably still going ahead of Pickens, but there are probably going to be people out there who are like, why? What makes you think that? I mean, I kind of understand it. I said earlier in the show, like CeeDee Lamb's had 1 historic year. It was awesome. Otherwise, He hasn't been great. He's been very good. There's always just been something wrong with CeeDee Lamb. Something always happens. He gets hurt. I mean, last year he gets hurt on a pitch out as a running back. It's a high ankle sprain, misses a month. That was a great call by Brian Schottenheimer. He comes back. The two of them are puking in a casino in Vegas and get suspended for a quarter. And then, late in the year, Lamb goes on a crazy streak of drops that are horrible. And then Pickens loses his mind, decides not to try in like 2 or 3 games. There's a lot of drama there. And you can correct me if my memory is wrong. I can't come up with too many times when we took a season where 2 receivers were awesome for the same team and decided, all right, it's time to put Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. It's time to put Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. It's time to put A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, both in the top 10 or 12 or whatever, because by golly, they both can do it. It almost never happens twice. It strikes me that probably you have to pick a favorite. I think I'm going to pick Lamb over Pickens, but I get it, and I might have it flipped the other way, and that offense should be relatively prolific again, I guess, insofar as we can predict these things. And I'll just say, I might miss out. They might be great. They also might be a disaster, and get your popcorn.
Yeah, it's tough to take somebody in the top 10 at wide receiver. And you're right. He's number 10 right now. Who is, and the numbers when they were both on the field did favor Lamb in terms of opportunity share. And like, it's hard to take the number 2 receiver as a top 10 receiver overall. Like, you don't love that. I like the alphas that are clearer alphas when you're drafting that high, and most everybody else that you're going to take in that area is clearly the number 1. But then you get to Dallas, and it's not an obvious discrepancy between Lamb and Pickens, but getting Pickens at number 10 at wide receiver feels like I'm getting, I've got a little headwind there because it's not the true number 1 for the team. So,
as far as but like,
as far as
to be honest, there were games when Lamb came back from injury where Pickens was very clearly still featured, and you go, all right, well, maybe Lamb was still hurt, or maybe that was the game where he was throwing up in the casino, or maybe that was the game where he was like inconsolable on the sideline because he dropped one in the end zone, and Pickens went crazy after that. There certainly were games where.
Well, the nice thing also is this is a team that's going to throw a lot. They don't have a huge, they're not spreading the ball around a lot. It's this consolidation of targets to these guys. And so even if one's, slightly behind the other in terms of who the guy is, it's still a pretty big pie to be playing with.
Sure. I mean, I have Pickens 13, and I don't want to have Pickens 13, but I just, once again, I look at, okay, cool. So it's Ted McMillan. Okay, cool. So it's, Jameson Williams. Okay, awesome. So it's Devontae Adams. Like, I'm out of guys. I go, okay, I guess I'll just take Pickens. I have Olave ahead of him. I have Zay Flowers ahead of him. Devontae Smith ahead of him. I'm looking to lower him a little bit because I think there's so much knucklehead in there, but I also acknowledge that, CeeDee Lamb wasn't a slot player last year, really. So a lot of that security stuff was going to Ryan Flournoy. And if they're both contesting for outside routes, I think I give Lamb the benefit of the doubt. But I think anyone who says they're positive what the plan is a charlatan. I don't think they do. I think the NFL reinvents itself every single year, and I can't tell you for sure that in week 1, CeeDee Lamb's going to have more targets than George Pickens. I can't tell you for sure that in September, CeeDee Lamb's going to have more targets than George Pickens. I think it might be pretty close, and that's why this conversation is relevant, because he's a dangerous player.
For sure.
What were you going to say? I interrupted you. I heard you trying to interrupt me.
No, I was listening to you, and I didn't really have I was just going to say it's whether one has more targets than the other. I just go back to the fact that they should both have enough to feel good about in fantasy. Should be a healthy amount of targets for both.
I guess that's right. I mean, things change a lot. They certainly are talking up Ryan Flournoy. I mean, they have a good offensive line. Javonte Williams just got a big contract. Like, everything changes from year to year. Yeah. This time last year, if we were having this conversation, we would not have had George Pickens as the wide receiver 13 because the pie was so big. And like, I don't think it has to stay big by definition. And that, but by the same token, I'm not disagreeing with you because I have him ranked 13th. I'm just saying it's not a done deal. It's not signed, sealed, and delivered. We're going to build up this mind palace and decide we know what everybody's offense looks like. And then one game in, someone's going to throw a sledgehammer at it. And, suddenly everything we thought we knew. Yeah. And that's why these guys are swing players, because we think we know these teams and their plans and their scenarios, and yet we can see the wild swings that these guys can give us. Fun lists and a little overlap with Omarion Hampton. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for being my friend for so long and for coming aboard the show. And it would be lovely if folks would check out All Things Athletic Fantasy Football, where Brandon is, of course, the puppet master of Andy Behrens. Make sure he knows that I said that. What a pleasure to have you on, my friend, and I can't wait to see you in person at the reading at the Mule Tavern in Tacoma, Washington, just, I think, 12 mere days from today.
Right on. I can't wait. I appreciate you not scoffing at any of my picks today. I feel like I won in that regard, and we even had a crossover player, which was nice. But yeah, I look forward to catching up more in 12 days, and that should be a lot of fun.
It should be a lot of fun. I hope if you're in the area, you will join us. Thank you so much for listening. Let me also thank today's sponsors, because without sponsors, there's no show. You've heard me talk about BetterHelp, and if that's something that you're currently in the market for, recommend BetterHelp. Fantasy Cares, of course, fantastic. Cowboy Colostrum. I drink AG1 and Cowboy Colostrum. That's now been the morning routine, and it's really making a difference. Feels like it is in my stomach. You can find the full list of current sponsors at harrisfootball.com. Today's sponsors are in today's show notes. If you have the need, if you have the means, and you can support a sponsor, fantastic. If you don't, my goodness, so happy to have you listening. So many of you listen. So many of you are coming back, and that's awesome. I'm so happy to be back doing this again. It's time to announce today's winners. We've got two of them. I'm not sure which is the grand prize, but we'll announce the signed book first. So I'm going to get in touch with this person and say, hey, which of my previous books would you like signed? Is that somewhat of a self-aggrandizing prize? Maybe a little bit, but we'll do our best here to also make a connection. Josh Edwards, I assume you've already gotten an email from me, but congratulations. The signed book is yours. And is it a bigger prize? I don't know. But the Zoom session with me, which I'm committed to doing a bunch of these, and they're really fun. I did one over the weekend with our first Zoom winner. This winner is Jared Henry. And so, Jared, by now, maybe you haven't gotten an email from me by the time you've listened, or maybe you have, but either way, you're in, and we'll pick a time. We'll figure it out. I'll do drawings tomorrow, sure, what the heck, on the Yacht Club, absolutely. And then also on Thursday, we're doing a drawing every day in August for the kind people who are pre-ordering my book. And the big one will come on Friday, because as I mentioned, Cousin Josh and I will mock draft with you on the YouTube channel. We're going to announce it on Friday. That's going to happen on Monday evening. So stay tuned for that. Go to harrisfootball.com, go to Pound Foolish. You can get entered and bump up those numbers for cumulative press. So coming up tomorrow, I mentioned it briefly with Brandon at the very beginning there, but on the Yacht Club, Andy's players he loves. These are, I guess, kind of like his film room heroes, but I'm just going to call it something else. He's going to come up with 5 players that he loves, and maybe that makes them interesting for fantasy, but not necessarily. We'll do some thoughts about these joint practices and maybe a few other things as well, a little stinky in the poo possibly, and then we'll all be back here on Thursday. That's another big show, because on Thursday, Jamie Eisenberg, as is his tradition, is joining the show, and Jamie and I are going to do post-hype sleepers. So you get to hear that walk-up music for sure. Should be pretty fun. Until then, thanks again so much for listening. Your hat is awesome. You're awesome for wearing it. I will talk to you next time.
The Harris Football Podcast's opening theme is Under the Gun by Apex Manor. The closing theme is Say Yes by The Wellspring. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and never miss an episode.